What's up, people? My name is Aaron Ciotti. On the streets, everybody just calls me Ciotti, and so should you. I'm here tonight with my late as in timing. Hey, there she is. Wonderful wife, Kristin. We are going to build her first quad together. Let me get the live stream up on the screen here so we can make sure everything's looking good. All right, cool. Again, this is my wife, Kristin Ciotti. Kristin, say something about yourself.
Hi, I'm his better half. I work in the room next door. I'm a graphic designer. I run Ciotti Creative. That's my day job, and I'm supporting this guy, and I'm building my first 5-inch.
Yeah.
It's kind of been done for a while, and it needs to be finished. So
she soldered the a set of hype train motors up a while back, and then I stole the motors, so I took them off. So now she's back to square one, but that's good because I got a set of motors sort of better suited for a brand new Pilot. So yeah, this will be a really cool setup. These motors are RCX 2205s that I got from my buddy Luke in Charleston. Traded him something or other for it. I think maybe a camera or two. So yeah, let's dive in.
Where's my cola?
Let's grab it. I put it back here for some reason.
Okay.
There it be. The frame was very kindly donated by our very own Little Stellar Fox, Jamie Ann. She sent that a while back. She did that cool little pink edging on it, and she didn't really have a use for a race frame, so she sent it over about a year ago, and it's been sitting ever since, waiting to be built. I don't have high hopes for this frame. The design. It's a individual designer that did some interesting things. Put some interesting cutouts. The carbon is 45 degrees the wrong direction on the arms, so the arms are extremely flexible. But for a first build, whatever. It's totally gonna work. We'll see how it is. It's crazy stretch decks. We're also going to do 4-inch props again to just keep the power level down, better throttle resolution, easier to kind of learn on. That's about all I can really say about this.
Can I say a disclaimer?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what a lot of these things are. I don't know what a lot of these terms are. I don't know what any of these letters or acronyms or numbers mean. I'm just going to be guided the best that I can with the knowledge that I know from watching videos with him and just being around him, and
it's gonna be perfect.
I'm gonna do the best I can.
I just realized that we don't have a camera, so we'll do that last. But I doubt we'll get through the whole build tonight.
Did you take my camera?
I don't know. Maybe.
I feel like we
Luke
had
might
one
have
at
it.
some point.
All right, so let's move things around a little bit here. Again, huge thanks to my buddy Ron DeLeos from, oh God, I keep forgetting if it, is there a the in front of it?
FPV Geek?
I think it's the FPV Geek. If I just start type, yep, the FPV Geek. Everybody go check out the FPV Geek. Ron is working on something super cool, very cool logo, one of the best logos in the game. There is his link. I guess I'm also now supposed to put the Patreon link. Let's dump that in here as well. There you guys go. There's the two links for the night. Ron didn't make this. He just knows somebody that makes them, and he surprised me. He was sending me his product that he's been working on forever, and he threw this in the package. Super, super, super cool of him. But yeah, let's do some work. You guys get to see less jacked up hands and fingers tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got here? Let me get back to my viewfinder.
And I also, like, I don't want it to be all boob.
Yeah, let's...
I'm just saying.
We'll try to get a little less boob,
Thanks.
although I'm sure everybody...
Thanks.
I'm sure everybody in the chat will be very sad about that, but, you know,
just
gotta keep it PG up in here.
Also for my own comfortable.
So, first thing we're gonna do is take this apart. So, go ahead, baby. And
what do
let's
I need?
see. So, hey, I'll be manning the chat. So tonight is a good night to ask lots of questions, because I'll literally just be staring at the chat, helping Kristin out.
Are we putting this back on?
Eventually. So that this RunCam box, or whatever the hell it is, was sent to me a while back by RunCam, and I never used it, but it'll be perfect for this. This is the only rig that we've got with a couch mount. So, yeah, you know, get some use out of it. Right, so let's see those questions, guys. Come on. Usually you're asking questions and I can't answer them, so tonight's the night. Fire away.
Guys, if you ask a question, maybe I will move into shot and show some boob. You never know.
There you go.
Yeah. It's after 10 p.m. on the East Coast.
How's the audio, fellas? I've got the microphone is pointed in the wrong direction and I can't change it. So I hope the audio is okay, because I can't really make it any better. So I don't know why I asked. Audio's fine. Thank you, Noah. Who do we got in here? Brian Chambers, Joe Gray, Shane Duggar, Noah, Mongo, Private Island, Michi Ayala, The House Blog, and I think that's it. Awesome. Sound is good. Thanks, people. Much appreciated. So there she goes. She's taking it apart.
I mean, not completely. No.
So we could leave those blue standoffs on, but they tend to get in the way. So we're going to take those off. NZ. Where's NZ, Grey Cool?
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
That's
I was
cool.
thinking, I was trying to think of a state in the U.S. that was NZ.
Same.
I'm like, Nevada? New Zealand. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Very cool.
So I am taking off all the standoffs. I'm just confirming that.
Yep.
Okay.
Jeff Freestyle, how are you, man? Any ladies in here learning how to build? Or is it just Kristin? Oh, you can leave those on. Yeah. Just the blue standoffs. So, we're going to be doing this build with a little AIO board. It is a flight controller ESC all-in-one. And what I like about these boards is that they're just so simple. Like, this is pretty much the simplest that a build could be. What I don't like about them is what I don't like about individual ARM ESCs, which is that you're connecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 22 or so gauge thick wires, and then 2 big old like 18 or 16 gauge wires to the PCB, to the board that has your gyro. So I got like 3 of these little AIO guys for $30 each. So I couldn't say no. But the other 2 that I've built before, what I find is because all those wires are connected to the board, the soft mounting just doesn't work as good, right? You've got all these wires wanting to hold the board in place. You're good.
Do something grippy.
Oh, just take the screw off the bottom. Use the, yeah.
Dun-dun.
So yeah, the flight performance is nowhere near as good as doing an all-in-one flight controller with a separate, an all-in-one ESC with a separate flight controller that only has a couple 30 gauge wires connected to it. But it's fine. It actually flies fine on the stock tune. You can go a little bit more aggressive than the stock tune, but beyond that, it starts to get angry. So yeah, for like a beginner build, this is awesome, but I would only really build one rig with this. Beyond this, you know, if you're building another rig, I would go separates and bacon Band-Aid all day.
Oh, I don't want a bacon Band-Aid. It's
So, all right,
Okay,
we are ready to go.
So, am I doing anything else yet, or is this kind of...
Now,
I didn't know what else I needed to do.
so with this build, we've got fairly low standoffs. Those are, I think, 20 millimeter standoffs. So we don't have a ton of room. Luckily, we're saving one board worth of space by having everything in here. But what we need to package and figure out where we're going to put are the receiver and the VTX. We're going super bargain basement with this build too. This is like a $10 VTX02 locked in at 200 milliwatts. And then this is a FR Sky Free Sky XM Plus. I think these are like $10 or so. So we need to, and we've kind of started on this process. You guys might notice that there are little plastic nuts here under these rubber standoff guys. That's because we started to measure this out and we realized that we needed to raise the flight controller up a little bit to give more room for the VTX and or receiver that we're going to be putting under there. So that's one of the first things that we want to think about, but I think we might as well just dive in and start soldering. We're going to be doing some race wires, which I think they're in that pile. See if you can find the race wires in that pile for me. There they are. Okay, great. So you're going to break those up. That's 4 individual race wires.
What is this?
Show the camera. Show the camera.
What is
and
this?
We'll talk about it. So Kristen's going to break those race wires up. Flip it over.
Great. Or drop it.
So race wires are going to go on the arms here. They're super helpful when you accidentally cut your motor wires too short. I actually like them in, just be mean to them.
They just break?
Yep,
Okay.
Yep. I really like them because when a prop strike happens, it doesn't care. Prop strikes do a really good job slicing through this silicone of these motor wires, which can cause real havoc. But with the race wire, if you put it in a good spot, like up here, just look at where the tip of the blade would hit and then put it up there, it is really, really nice to help with the prop strike situation, and it also makes switching motors a lot easier. You can just boom, 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 pull the motor off, pop a new one on, and away you go. But primarily we're doing it here because these motor wires are too short and extending them is just stupid. This is how you should extend your motor wires.
So it's essentially a relay?
Not a relay. It is just a flat wire. This is a sandwich of non-conductive something or other, and then strips of metal to conduct, and then another strip of non-conductive. And we can see there's that inner piece of metal there. So it's literally just taking the place of longer motor wires. Make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. So,
I have to take the props off, right?
that's a good idea. It'll give you more working room.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of room. This.
You got it. All right, while she does that, let me get caught up on the chat. Joe Ryan's fiance is watching. Very cool. Hello, soon to be Mrs. Joe Ryan. Private Island says Kristin needs a bacon band-aid. Jeff Freestyle, you shouldn't be using band-aids that look like blood oozing through them. I work at home, I'm okay. I didn't realize it was bacon, oh well. Scott Dunlap, what's up, man? Slide by FPV, good job teaching her. She teaches me all day, I figure I gotta teach her something, right?
Are we putting the same props back on?
We are.
Okay.
Alright, let's push. Let's get you some more room here.
Yeah, I'm trying to organize myself so I kind of keep track
Push
of
some
what
of these
stays
off.
with what, or you just push them away.
Push everything away.
Why did you push everything away? I like to keep things very.
Yeah, you're good, man. Trust me.
You have questions.
I know what's what.
I'm doing.
What
things.
props are you planning on using on Joshua Bardwell's Acrobrat with the iFlight 1507s? I am hoping to talk him into running the and the KV will support these the GemFan 3028s. That is why I'm a big fan of 4,000 plus KV motors on 3-inch props, because they'll put enough RPM into these 3028s to really make some good thrust and give you that really nice throttle control in the mid-low throttle. Alright. Tell her to hold the motor when she got it. Yeah, she's gonna. I'm gonna try to let her. And so, I talked to Jamie Ann about this a long time ago, and one of the things that she said was really important with, allowing women to kind of come into our hobby, because we're not getting them into the hobby, right? We're making the hobby available. If they want to join it, awesome. If not, that's awesome too. One of the things that Jamie Ann did say was, let her do it. Like, let her do the build, let her make the mistakes. We all did that stuff, right? And that's how we learned.
We don't want to be called.
Yeah, and right, Kristen's an adult. She's younger than me, but only by 5 years, and is way more mature than me. So, let them make the mistakes. That's how we all learn. Even if it blows up, that's fine. We all did that too. So got the props off. Now we need to figure out the race wire situation.
Okay, so you said that they're going to go here.
So they're going to go in line.
And
now,
this goes up or down?
Take your all-in-one flight controller
down,
ESC.
Down, because it comes first. Okay, yeah.
And put it where it's going to go.
Is it this way?
So now, I got some extra wire here. So grab one of the race wires and like figure out what is basically going to happen here, right?
So I'm soldering to these patches, correct?
So you want to pass power from the flight controller ESC to the motors, right?
So
you need that to be in line.
Yeah, so these are going to connect to that essentially, and then I'm going to have wire connecting that to the ESC.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
And so on this arm, you're going to go to these 3 pads here.
And 3 and 3 and 3.
So the first thing you need to figure out is where that race wire is going to go.
Well, that has like
right?
and that has a lip.
So absolutely, and like I was saying, we want to try to get any prop strikes to hit the race wire. So see on a 4-inch prop, look where it's hitting.
Yeah.
It's hitting down here. Eventually, this is going to go on to 5-inch props. So let's grab one of them. And really? Done? There's one.
Like, is it okay that it's on there?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. So put a 5-inch prop on there. See where it's going to hit.
It's gonna hit past the point of. It's gonna hit the.
Bend it down.
The race wire.
Because it's gonna lose space when it bends down.
It's gonna hit the race wire. Like it's gonna hit this.
Perfect. So where do you want to put it?
There, but there's.
So you don't want to put it there. You got to put it somewhere flat. I mean, you don't have to, but it's best practice to put it somewhere flat.
I guess it's gonna have to go there. Right?
Yeah, buddy. So if you butt it right up against that,
so I can get maximum.
You're gonna solder wires directly to it, and they're gonna want to hit this as well. So you actually have to back it off a little bit.
So like.
So basically,
a bit.
You're gonna have 3 wires. Hold the wire up, the tin part of the wire to where the pad is gonna be. So that's gonna come straight off of there, right? So you don't want it to bang into that lip there.
No, so I won't, like,
give it a little bit of space. Yep.
There.
That'll be perfect.
So I don't want it to kink. Okay.
So the reason why I'm telling you to do that is you need to cut these guys down, right? So hold that where you want it. See how long these guys are gonna be.
Can I ask another question before we?
You can ask all the questions in the world because nobody in the chat's asking questions.
So, how are these being affixed to the frame?
We're just gonna VHB them. So that's actually something really important. You do want to isolate these from the frame. They're not conductive on the back, but if it rubs just right, it can rub through this into the PCB. So you always want to isolate these from the frame. You can either shrink wrap these all around. What I prefer to do is I just put a strip of VHB double-sided foam tape on the bottom and just plop them straight on there.
But we're going to deal with the soldering first, then we worry about that shit later.
Yep, okay. So we can move it around.
All right.
So put that where you think you might want it.
I kind of want it, I think, there. There.
So now you're going to hold that with one hand, and with the other hand, you're going to hold the wires up to the pads. So you've got 3 wires. Those are going to hit 3 pads.
Okay. So boom.
So don't bend them. Run them straight to the pads, and you're going to cut them.
Oh, okay.
You're going to cut them to length.
Okay, so that's where I would want that to go. Okay. Okay. So I would.
So now you can literally take these and just go straight down on them.
Now should I give myself a little bit more like clearance because of the pad and like should I go like there?
Right. Always cut a little bit too long, and so what you're going to do is you're going to cut now, and then you're going to strip off of there. So you want to make sure that you cut the yeah, you're doing it right.
Oh, I'm going to cut to the end of where it was
the end
before.
of the pad.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to strip it off. And just try to cut them as even as possible.
Yep. Get out of here, thing. All right, there we go. There we go. Boop, boop. And that one. Well, that one's a little shorter. Okay. Okay.
So now you're going to strip them. Remember that whole...
Yeah.
See if you can use your fingernails.
I probably can.
So all that you need to strip out is the size of that pad, right? So keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's not a...
You only need an amount of exposed wire that is equal to
Yeah.
the pad that you're soldering to. Must be nice to have fingernails. That looks like it's going very well.
Yep.
I don't know anything about that. The reason why it's better to strip these with your fingernails is because your fingernails are made of keratin, and keratin is not harder than metal, than the strands of wire in there. So you literally cannot damage the
All right.
inner strands of the wire if you use your fingernails.
Cool.
So there you go. Rinse and repeat 3 more times.
All right. Talk to people. I'll just cut things and move along.
Let me move some stuff out of the way here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a bunch of
Oh, hi, Kel.
Kristin's sisters in
Hi.
here. Ah, Kelsey. Cool. So there you go. There you guys go. There's the first 3 that she did. She's gonna tin them, solder them down to those motor wires. But it does help to try to oh my God, what's the word? What did Henry Ford what was his big creation with Ford Motor Company? Oh, God damn it.
We got the cool pink
Automation.
edges. Gray Coal 79. Jamie Ann's Little Stellar Fox sent me this frame, and
Assembly
she
line.
had done the pink on here.
Yeah, I don't. I'll ask her.
Or she got it with the pink on there. I'm not
I'll
sure.
ask her what paint pen she did, because it actually looks really good.
It
She
does.
just did a really good job of it. Assembly line, Noah called it. Yeah, so you want to try to assembly line this out as much as possible, so that you're kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. So that one's a bit much, but we'll work with it. Right? See what I mean?
Well, look how big this guy is. Oh, well.
Yeah, it's okay.
Alright.
So yeah, there you go. So Kristin, Sean asks, has she flown before? Kristin has spent a little bit of time in the simulator, a little bit of time flying a brushed tiny whoop line of sight. We're going to spend some more time in the simulator before she goes out hammering this 500-gram behemoth around. Yeah, there's so much to do in this hobby. I mean, it's on one hand, it's like, well, yeah, learn to fly first to make sure you like that. But I mean, hell, you might like building. So just dive into it. Just do it. That's what we all did, right? And we're still around.
Yeah.
So let's get caught up on chat here.
I do have soldering experience from high school and college. With
Yeah.
jewelry. It's not the same, but, you know, kind of. Alright, I have one
She's
more
probably not
left.
as bad as we were when we started, guys. That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
Slide by says, also watch the videos on what to do if she's walking into this not knowing that is what you're also there for. Yeah, so that I'm assuming that a lot of us learned by watching Joshua Bardwell, Project Blue Falcon, and whatnot, which is great. But I mean, guys, can you imagine having someone that knew what they were doing to teach you?
Well, I believe it's
It'd be
kind of
pretty slick.
the one thing that was a big about for cloud camps was,
Mhm.
you know, that one-on-one, you know, being with someone that knows it and can do hands-on stuff with you. I'm on my last one, so we can figure out. We're gonna solder next, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Alright.
Cool. So we are going to get the motor side of those wires soldered down to the race wires. So whenever we're doing any soldering, we want to make sure that there is fresh solder on both surfaces that we're wanting to connect. So we're talking about those wire, the exposed bits of wire, and the pads on the race wire. So we need to do what's called tinning both of them. If you reach over there on the right, there's a wooden block on top of the soldering base station, just a piece of wood. Yeah, there you go. So plop that down, put your race wires on that guy, and we're going to tin all of the pads on the race wire. And we're going to do it the right way, because the right way, while a little bit more time consuming, it will cause a lot less frustration your first time doing it. So this is a flux pen here. Anybody out there, if you don't have a flux pen, open up a new tab right now and go get one. It is called Flux, Flux space PEN, and you can get them on Amazon. What the Flux will do is allow heat to transfer as quickly as possible from the tip of the soldering iron to whatever you're soldering. So in this case, we're tinning these pads, so we want to flux each one of those pads. So you can just bang, 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 and just get it all over those pads. You'll be able to see it.
Does it not matter, like...
No, you can be sloppy. So just do one side of them, because we're only doing
so
this
is it
first.
just like a clear coat? Is that like pretty much what it looks like?
It's actually petroleum. It's gasoline. Yeah, make sure it is rosin flux. Good point.
Like that? I'm
Michi. Yeah, just get it over all three of the pads on one side. Oh, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Don't squish it down.
Oh, I don't know.
You're fine.
Okay.
So do all four of them. We're gonna assembly line this out.
On the same side.
Yeah, let's move this and try to get it over here near the camera.
Okay. Fortunately, I have some tiny small hands.
All right, there we go. So yeah, do all of them and we'll be good. And then cool. So face those. Doesn't matter. Leave them where they are. Yeah, do them away from you. That's fine. So I got a little coil of solder there. That's going to be in your left hand because you are right-handed. And there's the soldering iron over there.
All right, so what am I doing?
When the soldering iron comes off the stand,
Yep.
you're going to clean it. That's the first thing you always do.
Yep.
So pop it out of there and stab it into the into that shit, and then look at it. Look at the tip, and it should be somewhat shiny. So now what you're going to do is you're going to put the tip of the iron down on the pad. That's going to heat the pad up.
Yep.
And then you're going to add solder to it. And you're looking to make a little dome of solder on each pad.
Adding solder down or... what's the best way to, like...
Doesn't really matter. It's just... yeah, it doesn't really matter. You'll figure out your own way of doing it,
So can I talk you through this step before I do it? So
Yeah.
I'm putting this down.
Yep.
I'm keeping it down, and I'm feeding it.
Yep.
And I'm doing it to each pad individually.
So right hand, the job of your right hand is to add heat, and we want to put heat into the pad because then we want to mash solder into the pad. Yep.
Okay.
So soldering iron down, right hand adds heat, left hand adds solder, and then when you see that there's a nice little dome of solder, you're going to lift up, you're going to take everything off of there and move to the next. Alright, so let me hop around the other side, guys. We'll see how she be doing. You know what? Let me full-blown take it out of the stand here. Because this is going to be a pain in the ass.
Take what out of the phone? I was confused. Okay.
Alright.
Alright. So I'm putting it down to the pad.
Yep. So you're going to add heat to the pad, and you'll see like some bubbling. That's the flux doing its job. And then you're going to add solder, and you're going to move it around. You want to get the solder onto the whole pad. And now you want to add a little bit more than that. You want to have like a nice little dome. Looking good. So keep the iron down on the pad and just leave it, and then do everything with your left hand.
Okay. Got it.
And you can have the tip of the iron halfway on the pad. Like pull it. Yeah, there you go. And then you can add solder to the other side of the pad. All right, good. So, did you notice your hand shaking a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not stable.
All right, so you're gonna try to get your palm down. So something that I bring the tip of the iron onto the camera. So something I can't believe I haven't talked about yet, but it is really important to understand about the tips of the soldering irons. So the way a soldering iron works is there's a big ceramic bastard here, a big ceramic tube, and that's what gets hot, and then the metal piece here goes up over it, and then it transfers the heat up like this. So as you get closer to the tip, it gets colder. The only part that's really going to transfer heat is the lightly colored part. So it's hotter towards the back, and then it gets cooler towards the front. So like when you put, you guys might notice when you put solder on the tip of the iron, it wants to flow back a little bit. It's flowing towards the heat. Solder flows towards the heat. Something that's important is, and why it's also really nice to put this side of your hand down on the table, is that it creates a really nice angle from the tip. The more of the tip that you can get to contact the pad, the more heat is going to transfer. So grab that iron one more time.
Yeah, I just needed more solder.
So we're actually going to clean these up. We want to get these nice and clean. They're a little
janky.
They're a little knobbly.
Okay.
So get your hand down, get a really extreme angle on the soldering iron so you're putting it damn near flat. And then there's also the flat spot. So yeah, make sure you get one of the flat spots down. And get that hot, and you're going to squidge it around. And then you're going to try to make a nice clear dome. So you can drop the solder. We don't even need to add solder. All right. Good. So did you also notice that the solder wanted to keep going towards the iron?
Yeah.
So to get a really clean pad, the last thing you do, you're gonna, instead of pulling straight up,
you're
when
gonna
it
go
makes that little Hershey kiss, you're gonna pull out.
Out, yeah.
Yep. So you're gonna get it nice and hot, and you're gonna pull out, and there you go. And that little outside bit is totally fine.
Okay.
Go onto it, make sure it's coating the whole pad, and pull out. And you can push down into the pad. So redo the first one, push down into the pad, leave it pushed down, let it get hot, and then pull out. And you can pull off of there a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Yeah, Voltronics, that's very true. I like doing it this way though because it's harder to do. Kind of swinging with a weighted bat type of a thing, and you can make this work. So on to the next. And those look really good. That's what we want. We want nice, shiny, rounded off, non-janky tinned pads. So go to work. So only cover half the pad with the iron, and then you can put the solder onto the other half of the pad.
Okay.
And make it flatter. Remember we talked about flattening it out? Yep. That'll transfer the heat quicker. There you go. That's the stuff. And try to do the same thing with your, oh, that's a perfect one. That's exactly it. That is absolutely a perfect tinned pad. Push down with your right hand. So with, that's actually a really good, so with your right hand, you can push down on the little thing and keep it in place. That looks really good. So yeah, since we're not, the other really easy thing you can do is, and you can keep going.
Okay.
The other really easy thing you can do in this case is just get a piece of masking tape and just masking tape your stuff down. You can also use Fun Tack. I don't like Fun Tack because it melts and it's just messy as hell. I like doing it this way, to be honest. I like kind of freehanding it. It allows me to move the work around a little bit. It's probably not the right way to do it, but just for whatever reason, I really like doing it this way. If I get frustrated, I will tape down or just figure out another way, but this also helps you learn to kind of do this shit out in the field too. See a bubble, and it's also kind of about timing. That's one of the reasons why soldering tends to be something that you get better at forever, because it's a lot of timing. So like Kristin's putting the tip of the soldering iron down, then she's seeing the flux bubble up. That means it's getting nice and hot and it's transferring heat to that pad, and then she's starting to add solder. Something that's happening when she's adding solder, as well as what's happening when she's touching the soldering iron to the pad, is that it's transferring heat. So the tip of the soldering iron is losing heat every step of the way. So that also kind of factors into that timing that's going on. Yeah, and the brand of solder is also important. I'm going to look at the one that I have. It's on Amazon. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to pretend like, because I don't think you, well, let me inspect.
Okay.
If you didn't make a mistake, I'm going to force a mistake, and then I'm going to show you how to clear it.
I'm allowed to be perfect at this.
Because it's important. It's important.
Importante.
All right, here we go. Let's get this here. All right, so we're going to inspect our work with a 5x loopy, which everybody knows I love. Those are perfect. Those are perfect. See how there's one that's kind of scraggly? Which one's scraggly? All right, so this is okay. So let me take a step back.
I see the scraggle.
Inspecting your work is here. MG Chemicals, is it? Yeah, MG Chemicals. MG Chemicals makes really good 60/40 that you can get really cheap on Amazon. 0.025 diameter is my preferred. What was the question? Sorry, you said you saw the janky one.
I saw the janky
Oh.
one.
So what I wanted to talk about for a second is like inspecting your work. When you're new at this, you don't know what's good and what's bad, right? Like it's easy to just say, oh yeah, inspect your work to make sure it's good, but it is a lot harder to actually know what the hell you're looking for.
So that was the janky one, right?
Nope. It is in the middle on that one. So
on this one? Oh, I see it. Is it because of that bit right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see what I can do with the loop here. Ooh, it's working. Ooh, it's working.
Yeah, but like your other, it doesn't make any sense. Look at the screen.
Yeah. It's tough to do. Yeah. Well, okay. We'll see how close this thing will focus. So this is about as good as it gets. Nice and shiny, uniform. There's a tiny little imperfection, but that doesn't matter. What I'm concerned about
is that guy, right?
Yep.
In the middle.
Is this one. And it's actually fine. It's totally fine, but it's imperfect, and we might as well shoot for perfection.
So that's the one I'm gonna work on.
So all you're gonna do what's called rework, and
Okay.
all you need to do is heat it up with the iron. You don't have to add any extra. Heat it up, make sure it's on the whole pad, and then pull off of the pad, and it'll just be a little bit nicer. And yeah, you can just be. It'll get hot, but you'll be fine. There we go. All right. So, what if, when you were doing it, you'd gone like this?
No, don't do that.
Well, that's actually hard to do.
Don't do it.
It's hard to screw it up.
Don't squeal. Don't screw it up.
So these race wires are very close together. I almost can't screw it up.
Would you have to just remove solder? It was like that how it works.
Stop it! Once the flux burns off, it'll do it. I think. No.
But is that what it's technically like? You do? You
So it's
remove solder from it?
Sort of.
Or you
So
burn
it's
it off?
it's basically I'm trying to get it to bridge.
Oh.
I can't even get the damn thing to bridge. It'll do it once we have the wires on it.
I know
Yeah,
what
it
you're
won't
talking
even
about.
bridge.
Yeah.
Take that from me. Yeah, once we get the wires on there, it'll start to
So did
bridge.
you just mess that up?
So there we go. Nope,
Alright.
it's fine. Look at it.
Okay.
You tell me.
No, is everything
Does it look okay?
separate? It's good. Yeah. Okay.
Now you get to do.
It was still that.
12 more.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So now,
I need more solder.
661, and I think somebody else might have mentioned, do them all at once. So you kind of can. So we're gonna do.
My boom, boom, boom.
That was doing it like the perfect way. Now we're gonna blast through these. So take your pen,
Oh, that's right.
the flux pen, line all these guys up, and just do one big, and just nail them all. We're gonna do this like hyper speed.
Oh god, this seems so. Why? Why would one want to do that?
You'll see. All right, so hold it up, hold them with your left hand, and just zoop right down the side.
Great.
Done. Now, dump solder on them. Just
What?
like, yeah, just
Why
like
would I do this?
hammer solder onto them.
Like, just fucking go at it.
Yeah, just go quick
All right.
and see what happens.
That
But I'm
seems so
I'm
counter.
trying to get you to make a mistake so that we can fix mistakes.
But I don't want to make a mistake. Okay.
And you can literally slide it like you just did. Just slide and dump, slide and dump, slide and dump.
I don't
So you see how good they ended up coming out? The majority of the reason why they came out so good just now is because we've got enough flux. Flux, if there's still smoke coming off the tip of the iron, that means there's still flux there. And it will kind of do its own thing. It will separate itself. It will shine up real nice. It will make a nice little area all on its own. There you go. Now on the last one, turn it 90 degrees.
Oh.
put the tip of the iron across all 3 and just dump solder in there.
Christ. All right.
You're good.
Oh, and I'm trying to get the wire.
Heat all 3 up and just pound solder into that whole area. And we're just playing around. We're just playing around, seeing how the solder reacts.
Well, or
okay, good. Okay.
All
right, so hold on. So this happens, right? The solder will cool as you pull the iron off, and you'll solder the solder directly to the pad. So fix it. Put the pad down on the, there you go. And that's it. No big deal. So try it again. Put it diagonal, put it 90 degrees, and try to dump onto all 3 at once. No. Turn it 90 degrees. Yeah. We're just kind of seeing how the solder flows, learning learning the timing. All right. So that worked. And we saw that it separated itself. So now check those. You don't have to use the loop if you don't want to. These you can kind of see. These are joints big enough where you can actually see them. So now Kristin's going to go through and rework. There were a couple that were a little janky because we forced her to rush, and that's awesome. Getting good at rework is also very important. What can happen with rework a lot is you'll start to get frustrated. You won't have flux on there, and you'll end up sitting on the pad for a long time, and then you can potentially lift the pad that way. The pads are held to the PCB by adhesive, so if you get that adhesive really hot and you start pushing on it really hard, you can wreck it. So there's been a bunch going on in the chat. We're going to give her a little bit of time to go through those, and I'm going to get caught up. You good?
Yeah.
Cool. So now you've got to tin your wires.
I just want to do one more here. Hold on.
And I am actually going to give you a little bit of...
Okay.
All right, cool. So you can move that out of there. You can bring your quad back in. Your quad back in.
Can we move that back?
We're going to do one at a time. So, I'm trying to think of the way the camera is situated. Let's do this one first down here. So, we always want to put a tinned surface against another tinned surface. These wires are not tinned yet. The pads on the race wires are. So we need to tin these wires.
So that just means to...
So what tinning means is putting solder on them. Right now they don't have any solder in them. And since we're going to direct pads, I'm going to hold these dead straight like this, and you're going to cut straight across so that these are all the same length.
Okay.
With the clippers. So cut as little material as you can just to even all 3 of them up. Yep. Cool. So now all 3 of them are even. There is... So if you take your fingernail, you can pull back the
outer bit,
the silicone
casing
insulation.
Okay, and I need to do a little bit on. Okay, that's fine. Okay, cool.
All right, so now you're going to separate those because you need to get solder onto them individually, and you're going to make sure there's no little scraggly bits.
Can you do me a favor?
What you need?
Can you get me some more solder ready? Because this is all I have left.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna solder each one individually.
Yeah, so tinning the wires is... You're good.
Okay.
It's totally fine. All right, so there's starting to be little scraggly wires, so you're going to twist them. You're going to grab them and twist them just to make sure all the wires are together and we have the smallest possible area to
oh, I remember this from last
solder down
time.
to our pads. Yeah. So the fun really begins. Puffy says the position of the USB is crazy. Yes, it is. But, man, I can't believe they fit a flight controller and an ESC on the same board. Alright, so let's get this guy a little tiny bit cleaner. Alright, so separate all 3 of these so you have room to work with.
Okay.
Alright,
so then I'm going
what we want to do, if this is the wire... Where's the camera? If this is the wire, We want to put the soldering iron on one side of the wire,
and feed it through.
and then we want to feed solder through the other side.
You're going to need
so
to put
that
the camera
we
closer
want to
to
try
this.
to push the solder through the strands of the wire to get it incorporated and all over in there. And this does take a little bit of time. Luckily, you can't really screw these wires up. You can't lift a wire. You can lift a pad, but you can't lift a wire. So, I prefer to do bottom and top. So if you put the soldering iron on the bottom of the wire, the first thing you're gonna do is, yeah, perfect. Kristin's doing something really good right now. She's moving the work for her. She's not moving herself around the work, and that's important. It's very easy to get your hands all twisted up when you could just move the frame. I'd prefer to do this at a 90, and you'll see why in a second. So get the tip of the soldering iron at a 90 degree to the wire. So 90 degrees from where you're at now.
So like.
Still sideways.
But why? Okay.
You'll see. You'll see.
That doesn't feel like it would be natural.
It's okay.
So but I still want on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I can't figure out how to do that.
You'll figure it out.
Okay.
Leave your hand where it is.
That?
And move the work.
Hold on. Wait.
There you go. Right?
Okay. Oh, I see. I see.
There it is.
Okay.
It's shockingly confusing.
I see what she's mean. Okay. All right.
So, right now, before you add solder, put the iron on the wire on the strands. So right now, nothing's happening. There's very little contact between the soldering iron and the wires. Where you get most of your heat transfer is from the liquid of the solder transferring heat, right? Because right now you've got a round solder tip and a round wire, so there's like no contact patch between them. When you get liquid in there, the liquid metal in there, that's going to really transfer the heat. So you can do one of two ways. You can add solder to the tip of the soldering iron right now, or what I'll do is I'll just put it where I want it below the wire, and now put solder directly onto the tip. That'll get the heat transfer going, and then you can start adding it to the wire.
Like that?
And this is hard, and you can also add it to the other side. This side. So now this is a situation where I want to add the solder from the top down. Because we have the iron on the bottom, push the solder top down. Although you got it done. And you can't add too much at this point. Like only a little bit will stick. And that's great. That's totally, absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. It's going to smooth out when we push it to the pad. What it's about is just making sure you basically can't see any strands. Yeah, the whole damn thing should be nice and shiny.
Yeah.
Tinning wires is one of those things that, like, once you do it 50 times, you just kind of go like, oh, I get it.
I weirdly like it. Like,
But
it doesn't bother me. Like,
yeah.
soldering like this doesn't bother me.
At first, it's a little difficult. And I gotta be honest with you guys, trying to manage the camera and both of her hands and my hands is a little rough. So, thanks for sticking with us. I'm gonna try to move this around in a way that you guys can actually see what's going on. So keep that below.
I'm trying. Yeah.
And just like dump solder onto it.
Can I have more solder? This one's really short.
And the same thing goes with this. If you pull sideways off of it, it won't extend out, but it actually doesn't matter because we're just going to redo it.
Let's get another solder. It's really
So it's
close
right
to
there.
me.
You're just going to pull it out, and you're going to use the soldering iron to cut it.
Well, isn't that clever?
All right. All right, little trick for anybody that has one of these. You can certainly do it around your finger like that. If you're insane, you can do it around this, and then it's perfectly round.
Now I can't get it off my finger.
There you go. Look at her finger turning red.
Well, that didn't work out, did it? Yeah, just needed to be looser. There we go.
Alright, so we got one more. Move the work so that you can get a good 90-degree angle. And make sure there's no scraggly little strands. Yeah, this isn't easy.
Takes time.
It just takes, like, you just have to learn the way the wire kind of reacts. So you see how you flick the wire like that?
Yeah.
You got to be really careful because it'll flick hot solder in your
Yeah, I
eyeball.
saw that. Well, I have glasses on. It's like built-in.
Yeah.
Built-in glass goggles. But yeah, I got that. Okay, I want to look at this guy because this guy's a little rough.
All right, I'm going to move some stuff around because I have an idea.
I'm covered on all of them.
Awesome. Keep going. I'm going to dive into the chat and get some of that done.
And can I say that this is probably the one part that intimidates women, is the soldering.
Yep.
And it shouldn't. It shouldn't. It's not that's intimidating, I don't think. If you have control and you know where your hand is sitting, it's very easy. You feel the heat, you know where it's going to be hot. Like, just be aware, and you should be fine.
Here's your viewfinder. I'm going to talk to the chat.
Oh.
Do your best
to rotate it.
Keep it within, and here's the lens.
Yeah. But the only problem is the microphone's on the other side.
That's okay.
Okay.
Microphone will pick you up. Oh yeah, it's true. I'm going to have to scream. Alright, so I'm going to go through the chat and get caught back up. Crunked is putting race lights on his micro 3-inch. That's awesome. Race lights are great motors. What else do we have here? Voltronics up. Sometimes I remember which end of the solder iron to hold. Sometimes. 661 says, I go through phases of only wanting to build and not fly much, and then sometimes I just hate building quads and just want to fly. It's like seasonal. But you have to love building to fly FPV. Isn't that the goddamn truth? I think we've all almost quit this hobby at one point because of problems. So you see how it's not... So you get more solder on the tip of the iron.
I just did.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go.
Go put a bunch. Get a big blob going on the tip of the iron. Because you're still going to have to push it through from the other side, but if you get a big blob on the tip of the iron, it'll transfer the heat to the wire a lot better. Keep it on the bottom the whole time, and just keep pouring solder into the top.
Oh.
Yeah, and just let a big blob of solder build up on the tip of the soldering iron, because then you can use it for the next one.
Oh. Well, isn't that easy? Okay. That looks terrible, but I'll revisit. It's hard because like it's farther away from me. Mm-hmm. Like I want to go like this.
Yeah, it's a real pain in the ass to do this with the camera.
It's fine. It's fine.
We'll we shall prevail.
It's good. It's all good.
What Voltronics says, why race wire? Are the props that choppy on the wires? Absolutely, Voltronics. The 5-inch props will rip right through a set of motor wires. The race wires also make swapping motors in the field a lot easier. And yeah. KTMJ says, wife building, does she have a sister? LOL. Yeah, and her sister was in here earlier. And then we were talking about solder. Okay, cool. Tiny's LEDs, says Crunked. Yeah, I love putting the LED race wires on the back 2 arms. I don't have any extras though, so we're gonna just do the non ones here. But I do have an LED that we're gonna put onto this build. All right, let's just scooch this over a little bit. There we go. Alright, what else do we have? Sean Hales bought his X9D and Dominator V3s before he ever flew, and then built a Beta 65X S, rather, and thought, how do I fly? Then he built his Acrobat. That's an interesting way to do it. Whatever works. Yeah, 661 talking about race wires during races, thus the name race wire. It really makes it easy to change motors in between races. Noah says, I'm surprised you're going to solder the motor side first. It's nice to just get the ESC side done before you have to get it pinned to the motors. Noah, I've been playing around with doing it in all different ways. I haven't done it this way yet. I figured it's a good chance to kind of see how it all plays out. Lately, I've been doing everything in the center first. And then the last thing I've been doing is soldering the motors up, which is kind of interesting. I don't necessarily know if one way is better than the other yet, but I'll keep doing it different ways and listening to people that have opinions. Yeah, race wires are only for 4-in-1s, never for individual ESCs. Individual ESCs kind of serve as their own race wires in a way. Okay. Voltronic says, seen some people put old prop blade segments over the wires in ESCs. I used to do that over the race wires. I'd put a prop over the race wire to protect the race wire, and then eventually I realized it was just wasted weight. So now I just do the race wires. The race wires weigh exactly the same as the wires themselves, so no extra weight whatsoever. Right. And Brian Chambers will take as many tips on soldering as he can. Well, you came to the right place. Kristin's doing it wrong, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to do it wrong to understand why doing it right is easier. And quite frankly, if doing it a certain way works better for you and it produces a product that doesn't fall out of the sky, who gives a fucking shit if you're doing it wrong?
I have no idea.
I don't know, actually, it just looks like it looks like you were at a funny angle on the screen.
Really?
You've actually got a pretty good 90-degree angle going. Yeah, so you're good. Voltronics wonders how many pounds of solder he's soldered in 40 years. You guys might notice we're not using anything to clear the to clear the solder fumes other than the ceiling fan above our heads. I talked to my dad about this. He soldered every day for many, many, many years, so he was careful about solder fumes. We're doing this a couple times a month, so it's just not enough exposure to really make a difference. This is not lead-free solder.
So did your dad
But we're just not... yeah, it's just a fan.
ventilation?
You just put a fan
okay.
here and just blow the fumes the hell out of there. Which the overhead fan's doing a really good job at.
Yeah, it is.
The fumes aren't pounding right into our faces. But, for the record... Try not to breathe the soldering fumes in. You know, when the fumes are coming up towards your face, just hold your breath until they clear a little bit, or breathe out of the side of your mouth. It's fine.
It's 5 seconds. I can not breathe for 5 seconds.
Yeah. Right.
Last ones.
Doing the last few here. Kind FPV says, just some old pothead that really likes to rip. Awesome, man. Stan Rowland asks, CI FPV, is there any particular brand solder that's better than the rest, or is it all about the same? Yeah, I think we talked about that. The MG Chemicals is the one I prefer, and I think some other people have made some... Yeah, Kester is the other really good one. Gretel Tom says, wattage is like horsepower, describes no torque. That's a good analogy there. Yeah, having a half-decent soldering iron is really helpful. You can use the $7 ones; they will get the job done. But my God, they get hot as hell. You gotta be careful. Voltronics hates unleaded solder. 661 says AutoZone solder for the win. Didn't even think about that. Yeah, if it's got rosin in it, it works. Go for it. This all takes a different turn when a wire is actually soldered on. That it does. Noah uses Kester 6337, so you know it's good. Right. I'm going to fast forward a little bit in the chat here. And... yeah, Brian Chambers says, when you want it to when you don't want it to bridge, it will. Yeah, exactly. Right. There we go. Okay. Voltronics asks, does anyone dress up their soldering, rinsing it off with alcohol to remove the rosin to make it professional and pretty? So that is what my father trained me on. That's why there's a bunch of toothbrushes, which are his preferred method of doing that. He also told me it doesn't really do anything because you're going to bash the shit out of these things and they don't need to last for 100 years. So I stopped doing it. But if you want to make it look really good after you're done your soldering, get some rubbing alcohol on the tip, put some on a toothbrush, and just rub everything down. You can get all the rosin, the yellow disgusting shit off of there. But for as frequently as we slam these things, you can just leave it on. There's no real compelling reason to remove it for this particular hobby.
Do you want to inspect these?
So I want you to inspect them and tell me what you think.
So, if I gave myself out of 10, I would give myself like a 6.5 out of 10.
All right. You want to
Which
clean
isn't
some of them up?
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask. So I just have to go in with the hot soldering iron
Mhm.
and kind of perfect, because my wires are all covered. It's just that there's some blobbies, or I need to cover up some more of the wires. Okay.
Yeah. So this is more going to just be good practice. We're going to solder these down to the pads, and that's going to melt everything all over again. But this is really good practice just to kind of see how the solder is going to flow, and just no reason not to do this.
Okay.
All right. Smoke is good. That it is. Voltronic says he's all about cleaning. Gotta look sharp. Love it. 661 says now solder some 30 gauge wires. Yeah, we'll get there. Nice. 661 FPV hit 100 subscribers today on YouTube. Congrats, man. Keep going. Keep being stubborn. Keep smashing. Voltronic says getting the hardware to make the stack fit has always been my Rubicon. If that's the word to use, it's a pain to find the right standoffs and bolts and have everything obey Pauly's exclusion principle. Yeah, it's true, man. I call that packaging, because that's what they call it in the motorsports, in the automotive world. You know, you've got a space, you've got to put a bunch of stuff in that space, and you want to do it in a way that sort of makes sense. So whenever the solder doesn't want to melt for you, all you're going to do is tin the tip of the soldering iron. So put some solder on the tip of that solder. You spend enough time on it. So basically, you spend enough time on that wire to heat the wire up. But a better scenario, if you can't 1/1000 and there's nothing going on,
add more solder.
Add more flux. There's flux in the solder, so add more solder.
Okay. Pass
Right.
it to you because I would like you to look at it.
Cool. I'm getting there on the chat, guys. I'm almost caught up. ESC and FC on the same board. That's neat and scary, Voltronic says. Yes, it is. Why would the USB...
Don't be creepy.
All right. Let's inspect. So the
bits.
The flux ran out on this one.
Okay.
And then when you pulled the tip of the iron away, the solder wanted to come with it because the solder wants to go towards the heat. That's fine. We're going to fix that once we get onto the pads. Same thing happened here. And all right, so this is a bad one.
Oh, I see him.
So we've got one little scraggler. The reason why that's bad is that one little scraggler could bridge to one of the other ones and blow it up.
Yeah.
So that's bad. That's something that we absolutely have to fix, and all we do is fold it back together
and solder
and go again. And
Okay.
now we've got that situation again here.
Yeah, I see
We've
him.
got a little scraggler. This one is pretty good. Look at that. Don't look down here because there's a distance that it'll stop focusing. This one is pretty good, and this one is really good as well. Same thing happened there. That's fine.
The jank.
This one's a little knobbly, but everything's covered. That's actually totally fine. And then we've got
Is it too
a
much?
little guy trying to escape. So we're actually going to put the iron on top here. That's going to pull the solder upwards, and it's going to cover that guy up.
Great.
And then the last set, that one's totally fine.
That one's not fine.
We got a bunch of scragglers on this one. And we got another scraggler on this one.
Okay, so there was a few scragglers.
So Kristin's going to do some rework
It was just my scragglers.
to fix the scragglers.
Okay. Can you take
So-
this for me and do it? Reposition. Okay.
Now, to kill those scragglers, you're going to start using tools. So grab the bigger of the tweezers. Yeah. So what you're going to do is you're going to tin the tip of the soldering iron so that you can put the tip of the soldering iron underneath.
Yeah.
There's going to be a nice big blob. That big blob is going to melt to the existing blob.
Yep.
and then you can use your tool to get the scraggler under control with your left hand and push the scraggler into the blob, and that should fix it.
So am I adding more solder to the tip of...
Yep.
Okay.
Just so that it transfers the heat as quickly as possible.
So I add a little bit.
Add a bunch. Get a big old blob going. And just try to get it on the top. Yeah, you're good. So that one I didn't think had a scraggler. So you gotta go. You gotta get your 90 degree on.
I'm so confused on what you're telling me to do with this.
All right.
These
So come
tools.
off of there. All right.
Yeah, with the tweezer. What am I doing with the tweezer?
Get this wire into a place where you can get it at a 90 degree with the soldering iron. First things first. Awesome. So this was not one of the ones with the scraggler, so we just want to clean this one up. So to clean it up, you're going to go... so what keeps happening on this one? It keeps wanting to pull away, right?
Right.
And why is that happening?
Because there's a lot of solder on it.
Running out of flux.
Oh, okay.
There's flux in here. So if you put the iron below that blob, and then you dump some more solder in, and then come off of it quicker...
You'll pull it with it.
It'll still be smoking.
Okay.
And then the solder won't want to chase the tip of the iron.
There's a lot of solder, though. See what I mean?
Okay.
Now there's,
Alright,
but
so
now there's no solder on the top of the wire.
That's fine. We can just keep redoing it over and over and over again. So, and this is when it gets hard. This is also when it gets frustrating. I'm going to turn the temperature up a little bit. All right.
It just keeps getting...
Let me do one, and I'm going to show you, because it definitely helps to see when you start to get into these frustrating ones. A, it helps to take a step back for a second, but B, it helps to look somebody up and
Watch them do it.
see what they're up to. So let's get this rejiggered here. All right, so we're gonna go underneath. And we're going to put solder back here, flow the whole thing, and then pull out. And the reason why it behaved is because I did it quickly. That's the pain in the ass with soldering sometimes.
But then I'm afraid I'm going to flick the solder.
That's fine. Because you're going to pull out in this direction.
Got it.
And now that there's no solder and there's no smoke, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
it's going to do it again.
Yeah, I see.
It's going to drag and try to... And so to get around that, right, we're just adding... The other thing to do would be to take the solder pen and try to get the solder pen on there, but the liquid tends to run off and just go all over the place. So I tend to do it with the solder because the solder has flux in the core. So again, we're going to just barely touch it, just a little bit of contact, and then add some solder, get that smoke going, pull it out and away. And see, it did even want to chase it that time. It's actually fine to have a little run there. But again, if we want to, we can add a big-ass blob and pull off of that guy. Same thing on this one. Big blob, let it all melt, let it all flow, come out of there. And then this is the one that had the little scraggler. We already have a blob. Use the blob to heat up the current blob that's there. Add a little bit to get the smoke.
There's such technical terms.
Pull
Blobs.
away. Blobs and smokes and bits and bobs. And now we look for that little scraggler, and he's all gone.
Okay. I get you now.
Cool?
Yeah, I have to just be quicker. I'm being very gentle.
Yeah. Getting quick at this shit comes with doing it hundreds of times, so it's really hard to get to that point now, but it's what you want to aim for. Alright, I'm going to get caught up on this chat, and I'm just going to let Kristin do it, because she's going to start to get it as she does it more and more and more. Alright. Voltronic says, the transfer of heat from a liquid metal is brought home when a blob of solder lands on your leg, arm, or even on your jeans, or in your eyeball. Always dress your wires before tinning, flatten out scraggly wires. Yep, absolutely, Voltronics. Voltronics also likes the box light quad storage display in the background. Yeah, that's our... oh god, what's it called? Calax.
Yeah.
3x3 Calax. Alright. Oh yeah, another really good point by Voltronics. Flicking solder is a good way to land blobs in the flight controller. So when you guys are soldering, if you accidentally flick solder somewhere, stop and try to find it. Because if it landed on the flight controller, there's a good chance it can bridge two components and it'll blow up. Alright. Joe Gray is egging Kristin on, saying, go, 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 do it, solder that bad boy. Crunked is doing the LED race wires on the back arms, awesome. Just for anybody that is wondering why not the front arms, if you put them on the front arms, they shine into the props, and if you're flying in the air, when the sun's going down in the evening, that brightness on the props can foul the camera. The camera can see that brightness and expose for the props rather than exposing for the environment that you're in. Alright, Joe Gray is using the Flywoo knockoff race wires. We'll ordered them. I'm curious how they are. Get back to us, Joe, if you don't mind. Private Line says, don't forget to apply the bacon band-aids on the arms under the race wire. 661 says, first quad had 2 solder points. It was a tiny whoop with no OSD. Awesome. It was only the battery wire and the cam power went to the same 2 wires. It was a pain in the ass still. Yeah, the tiny whoops are infinitely difficult to solder, but a good starting point. Brian Chambers bought himself a jeweler's magnification headgear, which helps him a lot. I will have one of them at some point, Brian, but I'm trying to avoid it for as long as possible because it'll just make me feel old.
No, that's alright.
Spudnik says, Ciati, why are the motor wires so short in this build? Are you trying to make it more annoying for your wife? No, we are using... they were so short to begin with because I traded my buddy Luke for them, and I think he was using individual ESCs. But it's a good excuse to use race wires, which is a lot more practice soldering, which is really good too. Alright.
Bam.
You there?
Yeah.
Show the ladies and gentlemen. 661 squints. Joe Gray lives dangerously. Brian Chambers says Painless 360 was showing some new style motor connectors. Look pretty sharp. I saw that. Those have been around for a while, I believe, actually.
I'm trying to be like a beauty YouTuber. They put their hand behind things to
There
make
you
it
go. No scragglies?
No scragglies. That was my biggest problem.
G-Dub FPV started a year ago. Now he's got 9. Yeah, that sounds about right. Voltronics loves the smell of solder fumes. Joe Gray uses a TS100. I'm jealous. I need to get myself one of those. Stan Rowland says, thanks. Ordering the MG Chemical solder on Amazon. Awesome. You'll love it. Kristen's looking for her solder. 661 says, what temperature range are you using for different sizes wired and pads? In Celsius. In Celsius here. She's going to look for that. I'm going to look what temperatures I run at.
I felt it.
So in Celsius...
No, it's gone.
I go from about 38.
Oh, no, it is.
At an absolute minimum, I'll go down to 38. I'll usually be up around 40 or so, or 400, I guess it would be. And then on certain stuff like the battery wires, here it is, I got it for you.
Oh.
Certain stuff like the battery wires, I'll just go full banana pants. As hot as this iron will go. Right, Just Fly tried the cheap solder. It really sucks. Get good solder. Yup. Sean Hales says, what about denatured alcohol? I don't know, to be honest with you. I just use regular old rubbing alcohol. I don't do it I don't clean anymore.
Okay. So now we have to...
Alright, so now we're going to solder the 2 tinned things to one another.
So we're going to state the wires to the...
Yep. So one of the nice things you can do now is reflux with the pen, the pads.
Oh, on this?
Yep.
Oh.
Like I said, it's you can flux the tips of the wires, but it just doesn't seem to stay there. But the pads, the flux from the pen will stay there. So what I'll do is put it on the arm where you want it. And then flux it, and then pick up your iron, The flux is petroleum-based, so it does kind of sort of evaporate a little bit. But we're mainly just assembly lining this as much as we can. So now the fun really begins. You're going to grab the small tweezers. So we don't need to add, in theory, any more solder.
I'm just keeping here in case it needs to be.
We might, but hopefully we won't. So we're going to work from farthest away to closest, just so that we're not trying to work over ourselves. So pick whichever way you want to do it. Your left hand is going to control the wire. Your right hand is going to add heat. It is also going to push down in adding the heat, but most important is that your left hand controls the wire. Ooh.
Wow.
This
wire is just like...
Yeah, no getting around that.
Okay, I know. Okay. Hold on. There we go. Okay.
So keep moving the work around. Get yourself comfortable. You're going to do the farthest left wire first. So bend those other ones. Get those other ones the hell out of the way. Do it with your fingers.
Okay.
Craft King, I have no idea what frame this is. Even if I did know it, I wouldn't tell you because you shouldn't buy it.
So pretty much I'm booping to booping, right?
Alright, so here. If you did that, what's going to happen when you do the next one?
I'm going to go over it, so I have to go this way.
Yep. There you go.
Why did I rotate it? I had to do it the right the first. No. Okay.
Good. Alright, so try to get... Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm booping.
A little bit far. Pull this. I'm just going to do it for you.
Yeah.
So that the insulation of the wire butts right up against the back of the pad.
Oh, I see.
Yep. And now with your right hand, you're going to push down very gently.
Until I feel it melt.
So now for this one, position it away a little bit. Yeah, there you go. And pull. Yep, exactly. All right, and let it dry. Let it dry. See what happens. All right, give it a second to cool. 1 1000, 2 1000. Now you can pull off. All right, so now inspect that joint. And you want it to be as smooth as possible. And now is when you actually need to start using the loop.
Sucks with both glasses.
You want it other way. Yeah. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I don't want the wire. I don't want stragglers again.
You want to try to have the whole thing be smooth. You want it to look like this already looks.
Oh, I remember. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So now you're gonna rework it, but you want to hold the. So here's what's gonna happen, right? If you put heat on this without holding it. All right. So hold on. If you're holding this and you put heat on that, that wire is gonna want to lift.
So I have to hold the wire.
So you got to go right back to holding the wire. And what's cool is you're gonna be able to hold that back down.
Yeah.
So you're gonna gently push down. And push a little bit more. You can be a little...
aggressive.
You can be a little pushy with it. There, that's awesome. Alright, so something else is, again, we talked about where, put the tip of the soldering iron here so I can kind of point at it. So at the very tip, it's the coolest. So you want to try to use the middle of the silver area of the tip of the soldering iron. That's going to have the most heat. That's why that was giving you a little trouble. So now you're going to do the next one. So now it becomes a pain in the ass because your tweezers are going to... The first wire gets in the way of your tweezers. So what you can do is rotate up like this a little bit so that you're coming in at an angle on them. And then that tends to help a lot. Because again, you need to be able to push that wire into the pad with your left hand. Because your right hand is only adding heat.
Right.
And when you take it away, you don't want that wire to bounce back and move away.
Yeah.
You want to try to get that wire flat on that pad.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to let her go at it. If she makes mistakes, that's okay. We're going to fix them. I'm going to go through the chat. Right. I'm sure you've said it 10 times. I've only said it a couple times, 661. But what board is that? It's an all-in-one. It's made by... don't get it. Unless it's your first build, don't get this all-in-one ESC. It doesn't perform all that well. It's not all that durable. It's made by that one company that makes everybody's stuff. God damn it, what are they called? I haven't bought anything of theirs. Is it Airbot? I haven't bought anything of theirs in a while, so I forget who the hell it is. I want to say it's Airbot. Let me see. I used to buy their stuff, but I haven't bought their stuff in a while. Is this it? Yeah, it's Airbot. It's an Airbot. It's an Airbot.
What?
Where the hell is it? I guess they don't have it anymore. I think you'll have a problem finding it. But like I said, don't get it anyway.
Look at me.
But it is made by Airbot. Get all three?
Sure did.
All right. Look at them close. Make sure they're not bridged.
Burping.
Make sure there's no stragglers. And make sure that the joints are nice and smooth. The more craggy the joints are,
I can add solder, can I?
Totally.
All right. If I need, because I think that this one needs a little solder. Because it's not. I'm not happy with that one. Okay. That's really all it needed to be done. Okay.
All right. So whenever you touch the soldering iron to a joint, you need to make sure that you leave it on there long enough to melt all the solder. If you only melt the solder on the wire, what happens is it'll create a cold solder joint. Basically, the solder up on top won't flow to the hard solder on the bottom. And it's hard to see. It'll just kind of happen. So the way to check for that is to just be rough with it and kind of move it around. And I can feel that it's starting to pop off on that middle one. So we got to do that middle one again. You got to keep the iron on there long enough to heat the whole Mamba Jamba up. You want to see the whole thing go liquid and then flow, and then you can pull off, and then that's going to be a good solder joint. So you don't need to add solder for that, but you do need to transfer heat to do that. So you might want to tin the tip of the iron just a little bit. So tin the iron and then grab your tweezers and then go in and get that whole shit hot. There it is. Look how much nicer that is. There you go. Cool. Keep going. Good job. Voltronics is very offended by the location of the USB, as you should be. Noah says, on those style boards, there are really only two options: in front blocked by the cam, or in the back where you can get the least access to it. The FETs caused issue with side mounting. They certainly did. We could mount this board 90 degrees, but we're not for reasons. Basically, that hangs that whole part of the board out the side, and then you can break that whole tongue of the board off. It's one of the big problems with the board. Joe Gray says, rightfully says, no pressure. Only the whole world is watching and judging your first soldering job. No big deal. Don't sweat it. Well, I mean, there's only 26 people watching, and then realistically, probably only maybe like 100 or 200 people will watch.
It's also
fact, so
not
too
my
bad.
first soldering job.
And it isn't her first. Yeah, she's done this all, well, not the race wires, but she's soldered to the ESC pads. That's why they're already tinned once already. So again, she's doing one of the outside ones on this old school race wire. You want to make sure that the wire is a little bit shifted towards the outside to make it so that they don't bridge. They really do want to bridge on these OG solder race wires. So push down a little bit. Yeah, there you go. If you push down a little bit, you can actually flatten the wires out ever so slightly, and that gives you a little bit better of a joint too. What you don't want to do is push down really hard and really flatten them out, because then it's going to want to bridge next door. You weren't doing that, but for us men, we tend to just and want to mash. Voltronic says that's enough tab for the power for them. Mount at 90 degrees, we're sitting on the power tab. All right, we're just talking about that. Joe says, and yes, 30 of us count as the whole world. Agreed. Okay. Joe Gray, yes, it is a bacon band-aid. Gentle is good, says Voltronics. Indeed. Joe Gray says slow is smooth, smooth is fast, for sure.
Same in driving.
Yep. Marcel says, this is rad. I'm kind of new too, so this is awesome to watch. Glad you made it, brother. Glad to have you. Fire those questions out, Marcel. When you see us doing stuff, or if you've had things happen, I am able to just sit here and read the chat exclusively tonight. So yeah, hit us with some questions, man. We'll help you out. Squints TV just finished a 3-inch build. Now watching a 5-inch, can never stop learning something. Damn right. 3-inch builds are great because they really teach you how to do this stuff because they're so hard. 661's workbench is covered in solder balls. Craft King says, "What's up? What's up to you, my friends?" Joe Gray split. See you guys later. Gonna hang out with some normies. Normies, nice. Craft King asked what frame it was. I refuse to tell you. Squint's got a TS100. Definitely recommended. Awesome. Great, cool. My first build had smoke come out of the FC after plugging in USB for the first time from solder splatter. Luckily, it still functioned. Wow, still functioned and flies today. Shit, that could have blown up the computer and the flight controller. You got lucky. Good on you. Mitchie missed what the motor size is. These are RCX 2205 2350 kV. These will be a really good first build motor. Alright. Naked Pilot was late, but that's okay. We forgive you. Alright. Voltronic says, you guys don't stick or tape the race wires down. I do that afterwards. I like them being able to move around here because of the fact that we're controlling the wire with the tweezers. We're good to go. So Kristin has had heat on that pad for a while and nothing was happening. I'm
struggling.
If you think it's been too long, it probably has.
Yeah.
Come off the pad exactly like she did the perfect thing. Come off the pad, sit back, breathe, think about it for a second. What the hell's going on? Why is it not transferring heat? All the things we've been talking about. No smoke, no flux. No tinned iron tip. These are the things that you don't think of until you sit back in your seat for a second. So she had a good reaction. Just relax. We could totally put a couple pieces of VHB under these things, but again, I prefer being able to move them around. If we're controlling the wire properly and using the tip of the iron to add heat, we shouldn't have any problems. And again, this is kind of training us for doing it out in the field. There we go. So we saw some smoke. We saw it flow. I'm curious if it.
I don't know.
If it flowed all the way.
I felt it mush. I felt it go down.
So when it's being a dick like this, nail it with solder. So here's a little trick, guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that.
When you pull your solder out and grab a sane-sized piece, wrap it either around your finger or around your soldering pen, and do this with it. Make this little thing. Make a nice round base. And then pull it straight up, because what you can do is put it right next to your work. And now what I want you to do, you're going to get ready.
Yeah.
You're going to put this next to your work.
And then boop, boop, boop.
And you're going to tin the iron. You're just going to push down and get a good amount of solder on there. And then you're going to come back in. More, now. And now there's a nice blob of solder. It's going to transfer the heat really nice, and boom. We're done.
So much better that time.
It's scary to do that because we're putting a bunch of solder on the tip and it's easy to bridge it. But when one of them is being a dick, you got to kind of do that.
And if it blobs off, it's going to fall on the mat.
Yep. That is true. All right, so I'm caught up in the chat, but I'm at the top of the screen. Let's get to the bottom. Voltronics remembers the days. Oh, God. Where he would reverse motor direction by swapping a pair of the wires. Yeah, I recently had to do that. I forget why. Oh, I had to do it on Jamie Ann's build, actually, because the USB port fell off. Spudnik also saying, you don't attach the ESC with double-sided sticky tape first. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Lately I haven't been, and I like doing it this way for the reasons we've been talking about. Squints uses loops every day in the label industry. I love a little 5X loop. It's the nerdiest thing in the world, but man, a 5X loop is such a nice thing to have in your life. Squint says, never thought to use it for a quad. Oh my God, I'll change your life tonight then. Marcel says, use a sticky pad for the ESCs. I refuse. Naked Pilot says that looks like the Racer Star. I have one, and the USB's in the worst spot and flies like shit. Yeah.
So this wire's a little too short. Like, not short, but like, it's like I'm just having a problem. You see, I need to move it this way. Like, I need this to be held this way. So I need like another hand. So there's a lot of different things we can do. The thing I prefer to do is just to take the whole damn thing and shove it over, and the wires will have a memory. The wire, there you go. Okay. The wires will they have a certain amount of memory, and they'll just kind of stay where you put them. There you go. So see how she's coming down from the top, guys? That's awesome. The other wires are in the way, which is why she's having to do that. And the motor's in the way too.
Yeah, everything is kind of in the way. So this is going to want to, I think I see it trying to bridge. Yep. We're going to deal with it. I'm going to let you deal with it. We're going to...
You know what? It's actually okay.
Cool. And after we're done with all of them, we're going to look at them all. Keep going. Yeah,
it's actually
keep
okay.
mangling.
I have one more.
We'll go through and we'll look at them and then we'll do reworks. So we are going to do it with a little piece of double-sided tape this time, just to show the difference. And we will ask Kristin when she's done with this pad, which she liked better.
What? What are you asking me if I like better?
So, everybody in the chat rightfully is screaming to hold the...
Oh, no, I don't really care if it needs to be stuck down.
It's okay.
Alright.
So now we have a little piece of foam, double-sided tape. Now, when you figure out where you want to put this and you stick it down, it's going to want to stay put. So go ahead and do that.
Like, I get it, but I don't like. I can tell you the reason why I don't like it on there now.
Go ahead.
Because I know that every single one of these race wire things are not going to be in the same exact spots.
That's
if
okay.
I try to like.
It's not permanent. We just pick it up.
That's very annoying.
That's why I use a small piece, because we're just doing it for now. All right, so she's going to do that. I'm going to get back to the chat. Right. Video Boat 2008 says, loop a rubber band around the ESC temporarily to help secure it while soldering. Use a small toothpick to lock the rubber bands from coming loose. When you're done, just pull a toothpick out. That's a pretty... I can't picture that in my head without doing it, but that sounds like a pretty cool trick. I've had really good luck doing it this way. We're going to keep doing it this way. There's no wrong way to do this stuff, guys. Whatever works for you. I love having these live streams as a conversation so that we can talk about this stuff. If that rubber band trick works for somebody out there, then that's awesome. You just made your life a little bit better, Video Boat. I've been doing these a certain way for 2.5 years, and I have this way that works really well, both here and in the field. It's not the right way, it's just the way that I do it. So, yeah, kind of is what it is. Sean Hale's, somebody else saying, tape the race wires down so it doesn't run around on her. Them moving around, I actually prefer. That one looks like it went quicker.
It went quicker.
Was it easier with it stuck down?
I don't think it was necessarily easier.
There you go. No right answers.
Yeah, it didn't help me at all.
Cool. Look at all your joints. Tell me which ones you think need help. Naked Pilot says, yeah, it's horrible. The tattoo version is way worse. Those are all made by Airbot. Those are all this same board. They're not great, but if you get the soft mounting just right and you get good slack, which we're going to talk about on our motor wires, they are flyable. I have 2 rigs on them, and they are flyable.
I feel like there's little things I need to do on these 3.
All right,
this
cool.
one, the last one with the sticky tape, actually doesn't. I don't think needs anything.
All right. I'm going to pause on the chat. I'm almost caught up. Bacon makes everything better, I just saw. Switch seats with me. I'm going to do one, and I'm going to investigate.
Those are the 3 I think I need things. But that's the one with the sticky tape that I think is fine.
Cool. Switching seats here. Let's take a look. All right, so up here we've got, and I have to do this on camera because I'm using the loop. Sorry, guys. This one looks great. Nothing is bridged.
Someone asks, well, accidentally bridging 2 pads, will a solder sucker work good to fix the bridge?
All right, guys. Somebody just mentioned solder sucker.
Stan Rowland.
Do not use, in my opinion, solder suckers. This comes from my father. So it's not just me saying this, it's someone who was trained to solder by NASA and worked on a plasma fusion reactor for almost 20 years, I believe. What a solder sucker does a really good job of is push on a pad that you're heating up. And then when you hit the button on the solder sucker, the whole thing jumps. And that's a really good way to lift a pad, or at least weaken a pad. What you want is solder wick. And you want solder wick with rosin in it. I don't know if they still sell this stuff by Chemtronics. My father gave me a ton of this. But this is what you want to use to remove solder, or heat it up and flick it off, away from yourself preferably. But this solder wick is amazing. You will not believe how much solder this will pull off of a joint. All you do is lay it down on top, put the soldering iron on top of the solder wick. Sometimes you might need to tin the tip of the iron a little bit, usually not, and it'll just suck that solder right up through the braid, and it'll pull it pretty much all off the pad. My dad was telling me at one point, when he went through the NASA soldering class, the way that they do it, they will tin a pad, they will take the solder wick, they will remove as much of the solder as they possibly can from the pad, and then they will re-tin the pad just to make sure that the entire pad is completely covered in solder. He said it's such a pain in the ass to do it that way. But
Electronics says, "My God, who ate that container?"
Who ate what container?
What the thing you were just like that.
Oh yeah, I know, right? It does that when you pull it out, it gets all like mangled and shit. I don't know, it's weird.
It does look like it got ripped.
It used to be full with solder wick, but yeah, I do not like the solder suckers. I really don't. They just, when you hit the button, it just moves too much. So yeah, if you need to get solder off, if we needed to get solder off these, what I would do is heat the pad up and just boop and just like flip it off in a direction that's not towards the flight controller, hopefully. So yeah, great question.
Who makes that 1408?
Who makes that 1408? What 1408 G-dub? These are 2305s. I don't have 1408s on any of my builds. I don't like 1408s. Maybe he's talking to somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah. They're talking with
Is it my
chat.
turn?
Right. Let me check these. They look good. So the things I'm looking for is that they're not bridged. I'm looking for any little scragglers. I'm looking to make sure that the joint is shiny.
It has enough solder on it.
It has enough solder on it.
Okay.
And I'm also looking to see how flat the wires are to the pads. We want to try to get them down as flat as possible. Alright, those are beautiful.
There are some I think that are janky in general.
These ones are really good. And then
that's the one I think is
these ones are totally fine.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Alright.
So like you can see the strands, but the strands are still covered.
That's what I wasn't sure about.
And that's totally fine. There is a little bit of an angle going on in this one, but
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. I mean,
that was the one that had the shorter wire on this side,
yeah.
so it got a little cockeyed almost.
Yeah, I mean we can.
That's what I wasn't sure if
Just do it real quick. No reason not to just real quick.
So next we're going to be doing the wires from that to the ESC.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we got a bridge. Okay, cool. So that's very common for it to bridge like that. This is a really good example. We can use that solder braid, that solder wick, and we can pull all of the solder and start over. But here's an even better trick. Heat them both up. Actually, first, put some flux on. So get some flux all up in there. And then we're going to heat the whole thing up, and then we're going to pull away from the wires towards the center of the race wire. So we got them both hot, and pull towards the center, and it doesn't always work. Do it again. Try it again. All right, so there's too much solder on there for it to work, so we're going to pull one wire off, and then we're going to redo the middle one. Now they're all starting to bridge. What's interesting about these is like when one bridges, they'll all want to bridge. It's just like this cascading pain in the ass of annoyance. All right, so there we go with that one. That one's no longer bridged. The center one looks good, and now we're going to bring this outside one on. And so you see how when we push down, we made it wide?
Yeah.
We want to make it narrow again.
You don't want to bridge them, right? Because if it's wide, it bridges.
And so that's fine. It oozed off the side, but it's not on the side that that we're worried about bridging.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit better control of this wire. I'm going to fold it in, and I'm going to turn it out like that, just to get it pointing away. And now we can fit it flat on the pad like that. So now it's not going to want to bridge.
Cool.
So we'll come in here. And we're going to put it towards... no, this is starting to... see, guys, this is starting to want to bridge again. So we need to clean it up a little bit more. Is this hot? Nah, that's good.
Do you want to put the sticky stuff on the bottom of that one? Would that help?
Nah, it'll be all right. So we're going to heat this one again. And we're going to pull down. And that broke the bridge.
Yes.
And let's just check it. I think it's okay, but I do want to put some heat on this pad. There we go. So now we're good. Okay, so now they're no longer bridged. We're just gonna come down on this last one here and keep it off to the side like that and apply our heat, keeping it away, and it bridged again, you son of a bitch.
Let me get water.
So when they start bridging like this, the other thing that's happening is you've got too much solder. And that is the situation here. So let's clean it up. All right, get those two off of here. It's got a little bit less solder on these joints. I'm gonna do it by just flicking it away, and that puts it on the tip of the iron, and then you can clean it to get that little bit of solder off. This is actually my preferred way of removing solder, is get it hot, flick it off, that'll stick it to the tip of the iron, and then clean the tip of the iron. So now we have a lot less solder on these pads, so that's gonna keep them from bridging. So let's go one more time. We're also doing this in the wrong order. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do that.
You're going like the way you told me not to go.
Yep, that was one of the other reasons why it was bridging, is because we were
Soldering was spilling over.
putting heat onto the wrong spot.
Yeah.
So there we go. Get that one nice and flat. It fucking bridged again. It's because it's because this one is all fucking angry. There we go. That fixed it. All right, good, good, good. Better. No, still not going. He's a fighter. Okay. And this is also a great example of no matter how many times you've done this, there's always something to learn. And just making these guys narrow again so that they don't want to bridge. This is also where half-assing this doesn't pay off. Doing it right, especially when you're new at it, is really important. I can cut some corners, but as we can see here, it's not paying off. If I'd done it right in the first place, we would have been done with this already. But we're going to do it right this time. So we're going to move these out of the way. Pull this guy in, and we're actually going to do this short guy first this time. Put it towards the outside of the pad. Do I have a little bit of solder? Yeah. All right, outside of the pad. Get it down. Oh, it was all right.
No, it wasn't bad.
Jesus.
Someone says to use some flux, maybe you could fix.
Yeah. Good call, Mitchie.
Spudnik says yelling at it helps too.
Yelling at it does help. Yeah. Flux is exactly what we needed.
Good call.
Alright, so now we're going to do it right. We've got flux on there. Let's see the difference that it makes. And I'm even going to tin the tip of the iron. Or I'll just let Kristin do it again, because she didn't fuck up this bad. But like I said, with these race wires, once they start to act like a dick, they, like, once you mess up a little bit, it just, like, I don't know, it's really weird. It just snowballs out of control. Alright, so that one's now relatively clean enough. Let's get this knocked out. Get that second one down, hold it in place. So I'm pulling off up towards the wire. I've been kind of playing around with that a little bit lately. I like it because sometimes it'll almost like protect the wire in this weird little way. It'll build like a little solder bridge on the wire. What the hell is happening? Struggle bus all aboard. There we go. This one's being a real dick. There we go. That I'm happy with.
They want me to fix it.
Yeah. She's doing the last one. Now that it's in good shape, we got one more. Good call, whoever said that.
Bill Gates.
Yeah, video boat. Really, really good point. Pre-bend the wire so it's perfectly in place before you apply it. That way it will not try to move since it's already in position. That is why I preach left hand is for tweezers, right hand is for the soldering iron. Alright, I got a little behind on the chat. Let's get that caught up while she's doing the job properly. Ooh, excuse me. That's disgusting.
Yeah, you're not just with me. You
I
have an
know.
audience.
Voltronic says, we were just discussing earlier, in fact, how offended we were of the location of the USB Naked Pilot. No, I'm actually on Naked Pilot. I'm on live chat. I'm not on top chat. I remembered this time. Just Fly Bacon makes everything better. Mitchie is fixing a badger while watching. An interesting statement for anyone that doesn't know FPV. Voltronic says turn the iron up to 11. That usually fixes everything. Yes, it does. Well, I said that usually fixes everything. Slide by. That's the reason I bought a tin tipper. I don't know if I know what a tin tipper is. A tin tipper? Yeah, I don't know what that is. G-Dub asks, what motor for my brat? I've been waiting. I think it's going to be the T-Motor F20 Pro 3s. Don't know when they're coming out. Although it might be. Joshua got the iFlight 1507s in and he says that they're nice and smooth. So that might be it. Did you just do that one?
No, I did the one at the end.
All right. So see that one? So I was talking about trying to get the wire as flat as possible against the pad. See if you can get that one. Do you see it? You see how it's kind of lifted up? See if you can get that a little flatter.
Yep.
So spin it around 180 so you're not working on top of the other joints. Yeah. And just see if you can just basically hold the wire, put the heat on, push it down a little bit with the tip, and then just hold the wire down. It should... That is totally fine. That joint is completely fine, but just getting it a little bit flatter is a good practice. Alright. G-Dub, where do I connect the TX and RX on the Oscar Liang run cam on the CL Racing board? I have no idea. I'll look up that board though. In a minute once I get caught up in this chat here. If I forget, just remind me. Spudnik Budnick is recommending 1408 3750s to G-Dub for his Acrobat. I am not a fan of 1408s. I think that's more of a racing motor. I'm a much bigger fan of a 1507 or a 1506 if somebody would make it, maybe even a 1504. I prefer a motor that's got a wider stator and a less tall stator. That gives you much better control of the prop in the middle and the low throttle, and better control of your elevation and power delivery, blah, 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 blah. We are 10 minutes from 12 o'clock, so we've got 10 more minutes on this build, and then we're going to go relax. I got to start ending these streams on time.
Now at this point, because
what we're going to do...
trim the wires.
Yeah, we're actually just going to keep soldering. We're just going to solder full-length wires to these guys.
And then
we can probably cut them in half. That won't take much time. So the next step is from the race pad to the ESC. No, you know what?
I'll just do the long ones and then we'll trim later.
I know what we'll do. I got an idea. So what I want to look at, I've got this piece of wire. What I want to look is roughly from here to the pad, it's much less than half. So let's cut these full-length ones in half.
And then use that?
And then we'll use them, and we'll just bing, 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 boom, 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 bam, bam, bam.
Okay.
And that'll be good. Kristin got these in a really good spot. The end of the race wire is not too close to this. This one is up on the VHB, so you can see once it's up on the VHB, the wires are going to come right off here, and they're not going to bash right into this edge. She got it good on that one. Got it good on that one.
Do they want me to come back and finish the build?
I'm sure they do.
Okay, I can do that.
We'll do that
next week.
Either next week or a random stream in the middle of the week.
I can come back. This is fun.
All right, awesome. So you probably have enough.
I think this is enough.
So there's probably a bunch with that are even pre-tinned.
Some are not.
So just start banging those pre-tins down to the to those pads.
Okay.
Just more practice. Back into the chat we go. Where was I? Spudnik says exactly what we were trying to do. If you bridge two pads, heat them up again and swipe away with the iron. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We got to see when it didn't work, and then we troubleshot that by pulling off, like we were saying, that leaves a little bit of solder on the tip of the iron, and then we clean that tip of the iron to remove that, and then we can do it again. If you get solder on your ESC, use Blue Tack. That's interesting. I usually just use my fingernail and scrape it off, but that's a really good idea to use Blue Tack. Right, Voltronics. Sometimes I use the old get it molten and slam it method. Solder wick for the win. Indeed. Naked Pilot says, I tried building 3 different quads with that flight controller and none flew good. Such crap, didn't tune them because it wasn't great. You pretty much can't tune them. If anything, you got to back the tune off with this flight controller. Although, by the end of this build, we're going to have enough slack in these wires where we're going to be able to do it. We're going to be able to have something that we can actually crank the PIDs up a little bit on. We'll see.
Need more solder on there.
Hopefully. G-Dub says, my Brat motor still spins, but took a hit on a pole, bell slightly warps. The Brat motors did that for me at one point when I dropped the Acrobat off the rear deck of the car onto the ground. I've never been a fan of Rotorex motors, and this is why. They're just very, very fragile. But if you don't ever drop your quad or crash your quad, those Brat motors are brilliant. Really, really good motors. Voltronics is using 22mm bolts for his Bardwell stack, flight controlling 4-in-1, with nylon standoffs for his Runcam Split V2. Will it bend? I think you're going to find out. Let me know. I think you'll be okay. I would maybe use a oh, you are. You're using... Yeah, no, you'll be fine. You're using a 22mm screw. So yeah, you'll be fine. The nylon standoffs are fine if you've got a piece of metal going through the whole damn thing. Spudnik, I think you can replace the bells and motors if you crash hard, but I prefer just to buy another motor. Especially with the micro motors, they have this stupid ass little C clips. Oh my god, they are a real pain in the ass to fix. If you just keep buying motors too, you'll have a bunch of extra spares, and then eventually when those motors get discontinued, then you can start dealing with the C clips. Then Video Boat talked about the solder sucker. Oh yeah, you know what? That's very true. Video Boat says solder suckers are good for through-hole components. That's very true, but not that good for flat surface soldered parts. He's been soldering over 40 years now. Yeah, solder suckers are indeed great for through-hole components. I still don't use them. I still use the solder wick because I'm terrified of when I hit the button on the sucker, it just making that pad angry. And the solder wick will pull the solder right up through those the through holes. It can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but if you get it just right, it will work. But yeah, that is a really good use for a solder sucker is the through holes. Good call, Video Boat. My favorite comment of the night, Spudnik saying yelling at it helps too. My solder is my flux, says Voltronics. That is one way to do it. Bill Gates says, let Kristin fix that. Good call. Naked Pilot is building with F40s now. They are great motors. Right. A couple more comments here. Finish it tonight. Not a chance, Marcel. Naked Pilot says, I want to learn then because it's such a waste. I almost put the flight controller in the trash after the third attempt. Naked Pilot, what do you want to learn?
You say like Dr. Fraser Crane. I'm listening.
Oh, with this flight controller. Okay. Yeah, try it. The big thing is to have enough extra wire and to route the wires in a way that the flight controller will move around as much as possible, and to also use these vibration isolating standoffs. Those are the only ways I've been able to get these all-in-one boards to work remotely well. Video Boat says, take a little piece of double-sided tape just under the wires near the carbon frame base that will lift up the wires to clear the base plate. Oh, are you struggling with that, baby? I haven't paid attention.
What?
You don't want those wires touching that carbon?
No, because they keep flailing.
Yep.
Cool. I'm flailing.
I have a bunch of pieces of junk VHB over here. So put these underneath each one of those race wires just to boost it up a little bit.
Okay.
Good call, Video Boat.
Yeah, that's what's kind of happening is like it's not.
And as everybody else was pointing out earlier, it'll also keep them in place, which can be good. Some people like that. I'm more of a free baller myself.
Thank you.
I think I have one more. I do not. I ran out. Naked Pilot says, maybe I'll just give it to you then. Because I did that and I used them rubber standoffs and no luck. Let me, Naked Pilot, let me grab my one that actually does fly right, and I'll show you how I routed the wires. It's you gotta kind of, well, look at that. I put it out the side on this one. I didn't realize that I did that. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Huh. Yeah, it doesn't, I'll admit it, it doesn't fly great. But it is flyable. If you keep stock PIDs, if you get the filtering just right. But see, then you're just left with something that, whatever. It's not great. I definitely don't recommend it for anything other than like a very first build. What you got?
I just put solder. I had to put solder on it, right? Yeah.
Tin it up.
That's what I thought.
Good work. Yeah, here, I'll show you what I had to do to get it to work naked. So, good amount of extra. Where's the lens? Oh, there it is. Good amount of extra in here. Right, on all of them. And on this one I did face it out the side, and I really don't like it because like the battery strap and everything hits the cap, and it's not great, but I'm not gonna pull it apart. And like, yeah, it just has to be super free. Like you have to be able to just barely touch it with your finger and have it move around. There can't be anything like pushing up against it. It's really hard. I also ran the power wires in here, in and under. I don't know if maybe that helped or not, but I paid really close attention to making sure nothing was rubbing against the top plate, and I just made sure there was as much slack as possible on all these wires. And yeah, like I said, it's not great, but it is flyable. It does produce somewhat clean footage. So this is like my super duper backup basher. You know, everything else is broken, so I'm gonna break this thing out. Quard. But yeah, you can get a separate ESC and flight controller for not a lot of money that performs an awful lot better.
It's 12 o'clock. I didn't know what you wanted to do.
Midnight has struck. And with that, we shall call it.
We'll call it.
Let's pull you guys over here. Any last minute questions? Get them on in. I'm trying to think. What can I show you guys? Do I have anything fun to show you guys? It's come in over the last couple days, last week.
I'll come back and finish this thing.
You gonna?
Yeah, I have to, don't I?
Awesome. Look at that. Your girl. Holler at your girl. She's gonna finish it. So the when is yet to be determined. Maybe
This week or
one random night this week. Maybe Monday.
a week from today.
Yeah, a week from today. It's up to her.
If they want it to be like not a week from today, if you want it to do sooner, I'll come back.
If you want her to finish it before next Monday, get on Instagram, follow Ciati, my last name, our last name, Creative, and bug the shit out of her.
I also do FPV logos.
She does. She is a wonderful graphic designer. My head is very cut off.
Because I'm normal height.
Yeah, if you guys need logos or graphic design work, or if you know anybody that does, she is fully running her own business. It's called Ciati Creative. Graphic design.
Anything you need. Anything.
Social media, planning, strategy.
Yeah, branding.
What else?
If you need branding stuff, marketing, I'm there.
There you go.
I do it all.
That's what she does, and I'm a project manager, slaving away at a job I don't love.
That's okay. You have a hobby you love.
It's true. Jobs that you don't love tend to pay really well. I gotta have something I can show you guys. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, I did this yesterday. This was fun. Not at all.
Oh yeah, he
So I
broke.
can't have nice things.
He broke. I know I'm standing up in front of the camera, but I'll let you be. Okay.
Kristin's leaving, I think.
I'm leaving everybody, so I'll let him wrap up. I'll be back. This was fun. Thank
Goodbye.
you guys for being so supportive.
Hell yeah, you guys rule.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some ladies on the stream next time, or if you know ladies that are interested, have them watch the next stream to give them some encouragement and show them that it's not that hard to do. I mean, I think I did pretty good.
You did awesome. Way to go. 6S and 4S build testing is still underway. This guy is on 6S with Crossfire. This guy is on FR Sky with 4S. They're the same KV, equivalent KV, 1600 KV on 6S, 2400 KV on 4S. Thus far, 6S is better. It is heavier. The 6S batteries are a little bit heavier, but there's a lot more runtime. So it's it's a bit of a balance. I really hope that they come out with 900 mAh 6S batteries because that will equalize the weights on these two. A 900 mAh 6S battery should be 155 grams, which is what the 4S batteries weigh that I run. 4S 1300s by RDQ, which is just a white labeled GNB battery. Other than that, I'm actually surprised at how close they are. If you told me that I could never run 6S again, I wouldn't be heartbroken. It definitely, there are definitely some advantages for sure, but they are subtle. So don't, if you've got a really well set up 4S rigs, leave alone. I decided to make the switch because I'm in a place where more than half of my 4S batteries are shit. I've just really run them down way too low, way too many times. So the internal resistances are all over the place, and they just perform like total ass. So I'm giving a bunch of those away to random people that buy stuff from me, and they're gonna go away. So at that point, it's a great time. I have to buy new batteries, make them 6S, get a couple motors, do the testing. I think I pretty much know where this testing is going to go, which is going to be that the majority of my rigs are going to be 6S, but I'm always going to keep a 4S rig set up for a number of different reasons. So this will probably be it. This rig will probably live on forever as my 4S rig, and then I'll build 2 or 3 of these 6S rigs as my main setups. So yeah. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more of a performance difference, but I get it. It's more efficient when you're under a big load. If you're under full throttle, that's when it's more efficient, and that makes a difference for freestyle. So it definitely does make a difference. Great question, Mitchie. If I go from 4 to 6, will I have to change PIDs? Probably. It depends on how cranked up your 4S PIDs are. If your 4S PIDs are close to stock, you'll probably be okay. If they're jacked up, you'll definitely have to back them off. I did not, but I built very clean with good components, and I know the filtering and the PIDs inside and out, so I don't do any crazy things. If you build the 6S rig clean, it flies damn near perfect on stock PIDs, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I think that's about it for me. The Acrobrat is back together, and the camera's not getting any power, so I got to tear it apart yet again. I should have tested that before I put it all back together, but I didn't. That's about it. I'll see you guys maybe for a random stream this week. Oh, I didn't plug a goddamn thing all night. For anybody that's new, there's a link to my Patreon. I treat my Patreon just like Joshua Bardwell in that any of the tiers get you access. That could be $3, $5, 10, 15, 20, 42, whatever you want, however much you want to donate, that gets you in the door, and it gets you access to a lot of my secrets, reviews that I've written, secret combinations of micro parts, and just all kinds of good stuff that I'm putting into the post there. So becoming a patron gets you access there. I'm trying really hard to put some really good stuff in there. Unreleased flight videos, access to a couple Facebook groups, Ciotti Swap and Shop, Micro King's Castle, just all kinds of good stuff for as little as $3. So jump on in there. You guys are awesome. What module did I use for my radio? Noah sent me a I don't even know what it's called. Crossfire Micro, Nano, Mini, whatever. The little Crossfire. I'm out of here, guys. Thanks for hanging out. You guys all rule. Probably going to be an edit coming this week, too. Watch out for that. Subscribe, like, do all the things. Instagram, CiottiFPV. Facebook, CiottiFPV. On here. Many things. Oh, and a kitten. Can't go a stream without a kitten. There he is. Harry Potter says goodbye. Later.